So I had the privilege of participating in this really wonderful event last night that happened at Unity of the Triangle. It was a concert featuring the musician Michael Gott, who, I don't know if you know him, but he's becoming a very famous posse singer now, fabulous musician. And not only that, but he's now taking over the senior ministership of one of the largest, if not the largest, Unity congregations in the U.S., which is in Houston, Unity of Houston. And he is quite a presence. And that whole experience last night with the message, I participated as one of the speakers, and so did Pat, participated as one of the speakers. Between the messages and the music and the chorus and the people who were just radiating, it was just creating such a healing energy that it was palpable. That, you just know that energy was going out and lifting the planet. And it reminded me of what we experience here when we come together every Sunday. That we come together and experience beautiful music and meditation and messages and all of you who are all radiant lights. All of you are just beautiful expressions of divine light. And when we have that experience of coming together in community like this, and we make a commitment to centering ourselves in our heart, to opening to the presence, to opening to that awareness of our oneness with each other, our oneness with that life essence that is within all of us. That creates an energy, a healing energy that goes out into the world and lifts the world. I mean, people feel it. People you don't even know and have never met feel it. People on the other side of the planet could right now be feeling the love energy that we are generating right now. Isn't it amazing? We are that interconnected. We are that powerful that together in a community like this, we can do this, come together and experience this oneness with this divine life essence and this love and radiate it out and create an impact in the world. Right? That's what we're doing. It's a grand opportunity. A grand opportunity. And some of you've probably heard that the Chinese symbol for crisis is the same as the symbol that represents the word opportunity. Yeah, that is, it's so true. What an opportunity we have. Some people would say that the world right now is at a crisis point with, global warming happening faster than they thought. With this new administration, I'm afraid that's only going to get worse. The rise of nationalism, fundamentalism, terrorism, the craziness of the North Korean leader. That craziness. No.
Microphone's rubbing on your clothing.
Yes.
I think that's better. Okay. Just don't move. That would be so impossible. That, it's like right now, more than ever, the world needs healing. As Michael Beckwith likes to say, we are either on the verge of a breakdown or a breakthrough. And what we do, what we say, how we think about others, what kind of energy we're putting out into the world has a direct impact on which of those outcomes it will be. So what an opportunity. Which is why it's so important that we stay connected, we stay conscious, we stay connected with source energy. And, I know that's not always easy. It's not always easy when the world throws punches and our teenage children are acting out. And, disappointments happen. People are mean to us. People are mean to other people. And, or we even just listen to the news. That's enough to throw us off our game. But if we have a consistent spiritual practice, whatever it is, whether it's meditation or chanting or walking the labyrinth or affirmative prayer or proactive gratitude, whatever it is, as long as it's a daily, regular practice, you see, then we don't get so thrown. Or we don't get thrown for very long. We can get back on track and return to that awareness of our unity and oneness with this divine life essence. And then not only do we open to the experience, to the flow of more well-being, of more joy, of more abundance, of more peace in our own lives, but we also become a healing influence in the world. Through spiritual practice, we develop an ability to see kind of above and beyond the current crisis. We develop an ability to see from a more spiritual, a higher spiritual perspective. We begin to see from the eyes of God. And then we can see the opportunity. Then we can see the opportunity. So there is a short sentence that, but a very powerful sentence that is part of my morning affirmation. And it goes like this: let me remember that every situation contains the seeds of a miracle. So think about that. No matter what the situation is, and I can think of some pretty horrible situations. I've been in a few of them myself. Maybe you have too. That right there in the crisis, in the yuck, are seeds that are planted by the presence that is. Planted there, that if we recognize it and we nurture those seeds begin to sprout and to grow and blossom into a miraculous opportunity. Something that could shift our lives. Something that could shift the world. But if we don't see the seeds or nurture the seeds, they won't grow. They don't blossom. So how do the seeds blossom into a miracle? Glad you asked. I want to talk about that. Let's talk about that. So first and foremost, we have to acknowledge that the seeds are there, right? We have to acknowledge the seeds are there. And sometimes that takes some searching because sometimes the seeds remain hidden, sometimes, well hidden. I promise you they're there, but sometimes they're hidden, so we have to search. In fact, sometimes that is our task, the most important task when we're in a crisis. It's to search for the seeds of a miracle. And you're not alone in this. Ask Spirit within to reveal what is the potential miracle here. I know that there is a gift in this situation. Reveal it to me. Ask and you shall receive. So it will be revealed. And our job is just to listen, stay open and listen. So I was reminded recently of Amy Cuddy's story, because I'm reading her book, Presence. Amy Cuddy is, you may know her from her famous TED Talk. It's one of the top TED Talks of all time, where she talks about empowerment, personal power, and how to embody personal power. She's the one that does the power poses, right? We did that together one Sunday last year. So her experience is she was a sophomore in college, and very smart, very high IQ, and really on track for wonderful things. And she had planned a trip with her friends. They were going to go to a city that was about 14 hours away and help organize some freshman event there. And they decided, well, if we travel at night, we'll be there in the morning. Never a good idea, right? They took turns driving and falling asleep with and Amy, she had already taken her turn. Later in the evening, she was asleep, laying down in the back. The other girls had their seatbelts on. And as you might imagine, the driver fell asleep, hit something and rolled over several times, and then ended up on the roof. And all the girls with the seatbelts on were actually fine. But Amy was thrown out of the car, and she hit her head on the pavement. It's a miracle, she survived. I mean, that in itself is such a miracle. But she did sustain traumatic brain injury. And, the doctors are like, well, we don't know how disabled she's going to be, but there's going to be something. And she really did surprise them when, after lots of physical therapy, she recovered almost completely with the exception of her IQ, which had dropped 30 points. And for somebody who identifies as smart, that was a huge blow. So she didn't want to accept it. She tried to go back to college, but she said it was like being in a class where they were speaking a foreign language, and I didn't know the language, so she had to drop out. And then, though, she kept at it, and a few years later, her mental clarity began to return. She went back to college, finished college, even went on to get her PhD at Princeton. And this is when she discovered the seeds of the miracle. She began to study psychology, this whole personal empowerment and disempowerment, and this thing called Imposter Syndrome. If you know what that is, it's women in particular, but men too, who are very successful, have this thing where they feel like it doesn't matter how credentialed they are, how qualified they are, they feel like they don't belong there. Like somebody's going to find them out, kick them out, And so all of these things that she had struggled with through her life, she was doing research about this, and it wasn't until her TED Talk did she realize how universal this whole desire for personal empowerment really is. Something she calls presence. And that led her to her life's work, which led her to her divine purpose. She's helping so many other people doing this. So think back on your life. Some big challenge or even a crisis that held the seeds of a miracle for you. Something that, if you hadn't walked that hard road, that you just never would have experienced that. You never would have had that later on, that gift was revealed. That experience blossomed. So think about that. And once you found that, here's the second part of this, is be grateful for it. Celebrate it. Exclaim your gratitude to the heavens. Really, really love it. Enjoy it. Gratitude helps us focus love energy on the thing that we're grateful for. And when we focus love energy on the thing we're grateful for, it opens to us. It begins to blossom. It could happen right away, or it could happen years later, like it did with Amy and many, many of us. For myself too. Sometimes later on you experience it. Another book that I'm also reading is the book on joy with the Dalai Lama. It's a conversation between the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu. A friend of theirs got them together and had recorded a conversation about joy. And he readily admits in this book that the whole experience, the tragedy that happened to Tibet to the Tibetan people and the Chinese government, what they did to them, and being exiled from his country, barely escaping with his life. Being exiled, that's a horrible thing to happen. But he recognizes that the gift in that situation was that now he is able to meet people from all over, world leaders from all over, and he's able to communicate these empowering ideas about loving kindness and meditation and the importance of mindfulness. Whereas if he was just a monk back in Tibet, he would be cloistered in his monastery, only teaching to his monks. But now, it's kind of become loving kindness, those words, meditation has become commonplace to hear about it and to hear practices about it. What a blessing for the world, for all of us that came out of that tragedy. And he recognizes that. Now, finally, the truth is that challenges, even crises, tend to bring out the best of it. They force us to really reach down it deep inside and see what we're made of. It's nothing like a big, juicy challenge to get us to look at, wow, and we pull out resources, we pull out talents, we pull out abilities, we pull out spiritual chops that we never even knew we had. It was the crisis that I went through of witnessing my mother dying of cancer. It wasn't until then did I realize that I was the child that could keep a clear head and take charge and organize care and take on a leadership role, really, and all the while being the most loving and reassuring person that I could be. I never would have discovered this had this happened. And that kind of, I found who I was and what my talents were. It just kind of led me to, my life's purpose that wouldn't have happened otherwise. So, now some people think that, some people say that the crisis that we're facing in the U.S. today, with an administration that doesn't necessarily reflect our values, at least the majority of people that voted, and probably many that didn't vote, it doesn't reflect our values, that this has been the impetus that we needed to stand up, speak out, get involved, get real clear about what our values are, and to get real committed to it. It's empowering us, is it not? And women, I've heard, in particular, who have never served in public office before, are now figuring out how to get on the ballot so that they can run. They can run for office. We are empowered like never before. We'll never go back. I don't think we'll ever go back to that. Like, I'm just going to sit back here and take it. We are empowered. We are empowered in many ways. Many things that are happening in our world right now are bringing out skills, talents, abilities, spiritual awareness, a healing energy that we had never realized before. And we're part of that, you see. And so it brings us back to this idea of when we get together, it's so important to be together and be in that space of opening our hearts, connecting with that one divine life essence that is in all of us, and shining that out into the world. Being the light of the world that makes a shift. Seeds that are planted in that yuck begin to blossom and grow into miracles. Can I get an amen? Yeah. Namaste.